Hey students, this is Geethanjali. In the previous video, we learned about the various evidences for evolution, and in this video, we'll be discussing an important phenomena in evolution, that is adaptive radiation. So what is adaptive radiation? Adaptive radiation is literally the radiation or evolution of different species from one common species due to new and different resources in new habitats. So this basically means that many different species have evolved from a particular species as this common species moved to other geographical areas. So as it moved to other geographical areas, it found new and different resources. So due to this new and different resources, it had to adapt itself. So that is why adaptive. And as it adapted itself to the different conditions, new species came to being. So that is why we call this adaptive radiation. So one example here we have of adaptive radiation is the finches. And these finches are called Darwin's finches. And they are a very good example of adaptive radiation, as these finches basically they were found in the Galapagos Island. Here the main common species from which the other different types of finches evolved were the seed-eating finches. From this, we got other different kinds of finches which had different food habits. So they were not seed-eating, but they were different. Like they were insectivorous, they were fruit-feeding, some were leaf, and etc. So these were called the Darwin's finches because of Darwin's keen observation on them when he visited the Galapagos Island. Moving on to another example of adaptive radiation is the marsupial radiation that happened in Australia. So you can see from a common ancestor which slowly moved on to different geographical areas, gave rise to different kind of species according to the conditions of the different geographical areas in Australia. So you can see you have koala, we have bandicoot, we have kangaroo, tiger cat, sugar glider, that is the flying squirrel. Okay, we have marsupial mole, tiger cat, etc. Now, one special case of adaptive radiation is that when more than one adaptive radiation takes place in their own respective isolated geographical area. So that means there were two isolated geographical areas, and adaptive radiation was taking place in them, and the different kind of habitats present in this isolated geographical area and this isolated geographical area corresponded to each other. So that is why we found animals that were quite similar, but they evolved in completely different lands. We also call this an example of convergent evolution. We know that convergent evolution takes place when unrelated species end up in the same kind of environment and hence having organs of similar in function, the analogous organs. So because of this similarity, we call this the convergent adaptive evolution or radiation. So here you can see we have the placental mammals and Australian marsupials. And this table is extremely important as it depicts the corresponding Australian marsupials and placental mammals So we have mole, marsupial mole. The corresponding Australian marsupial for anteater will be the number, and for mouse, marsupial mouse. For lemur, we have spotted cuscus. And for flying squirrel, we saw here, the corresponding one in Australia is the flying phalanger, or we also call this sugar glider. And we have bobcat, corresponding to it is the Tasmanian tiger cat. And lastly, the wolf, corresponding to it is again Tasmanian wolf. So it's important to learn this table because they might give you MCQs like, if lemur is to spotted cuscus, then what is bobcat corresponding to? Or they can give you match the following, etc. So this was about adaptive radiation. Hope you understood it.